We sort of pull them out of that unknown as a parent when most of them could not do the math. Most of them could not write, could not read nothing but the Bible, and that was from memorizing. This was a great opportunity to give these kids something that they never had.
Last year, we uncovered some truly remarkable victories achieved by African Americans in Indiana. Among them was a case involving the historic community of Lyles Station, a place with a rich history and significance that extends far beyond that single moment. To the north of Lyles Station, a familiar name to our History Bowl viewers settled.
Well, when they first started out, Mr. Charles Greer, he came here in 1813, and he established his first farm and went to Vincennes to the land bank and bought his first tract of land, which is 120 acres, when he first did that in 14. And he was able, in a year and a half's time later, go back and buy another 40 acres, so that gave him 60 acres. And back in that day and time, if you were a 15 to a 25 acre farmer, you were huge in the eyesight of farming. And this man decided to go back to South Carolina, found a little sweetheart over there, got married, and talked some of the family into coming and helping him on his farm. So there was about 30 families on Mr. Greer's farm that helped maintain that farming activity to establish that African American in this community and settlement here. And then the follow-up of that, he left and went back to Tennessee. He also went back over into North and South Carolina and Virginia and talked to the African Americans over in that area that this land of the Northwest Territory was a great opportunity for them to come and be able to be large-scale farmers than where they were sitting at in Virginia and South Carolina on a small scale. So there was a lot of movement of the various families. There was 9 families that came here at the very earliest, and they started looking at how they could develop and multiply, and we ended up with 3 Negro colonies here. One to the south of us is Sand Hill. This one was called the Switch Settlement at the very beginning. Well, the Switch Settlement was renamed in 1886 after Joshua Lyles. That was the largest scale farmer that was here, 1,040 acres. Mr. Roundtree came here along with the rest of the movement of the people in that early 40 and 50 time frame, and established a little small community over there with an education. The Roundtree School was there, the church was there, prosperous farming going on over there. So the colonies that we had here were looking at the leaders of the 3 communities, and they decided, you know, Lyles Station would be the key player to be our central location for the general store and for the industries and the businesses that would be part of prosperity. And they came here with, the leaders did, at the church down here, and made that decision. And that's where we were established as a community of 3 miles in a circle.
Stanley isn't just a historian of Lyles Station, he's part of it. His family has lived in this community for 5 generations and continues to farm here today.
Well, I have been a native of this area for my whole entire lifetime, and I have been so very proud to be connected with the farmer. My grandfather was a farmer, and I'm still a farmer, and I really wanted to have an opportunity to stay in my community and grow this community to be a better for the next generation.
But staying in this community has not always been easy for his family.
Well, when we first came here, it was a very difficult time for this location because this was a wetland, and for the African Americans that settled here, they had flooding conditions that they dealt with on spring, fall, or whenever the large rain scales came up. The 3 rivers would back up out of their banks.
Living in a wetland has always presented challenges for this community, but it wasn't the only obstacle they faced in farming.
So it's very challenging, you know. to have your community flooded once or twice out of the year, but we were deep-rooted. We came here in that early years that our forefathers set you might say, a preference that this was going to be home, this is for everyone, and we would multiply and grow in strength in the future.
They not only had to overcome farming expenses, but also the costs of their children's education. With no government funding for a public school for African American children, the community established a subscription school. Families were required to pay $1.50 per child each month, a hardship for many, as most had between 8 and 12 children.
In the state of Indiana, they're looking forward to collecting a fee for the African Americans that came into the state, and it was called the Black Bond, and we had to pay $500 back that day and time to just be able to live here. And then we had to buy our land at $1.93 to $2 an acre. So it was a real challenge for the African Americans in the early years to be farmers and be able to take that challenge on at the cost just to be able to settle in the various areas in Indiana. So where do you come up with $12 every 30 days to pay that school teacher? And they had to take a lot of their funding out of the farm, eggs, butter, cheese, chickens, and move it through to the Wabash River over to Mount Carmel down on 4th Street and sell the goods over there and bring that dollar back to hand to the teacher for their 30 days of education for their children. The bridge was first, and then it was brought up in their discussion, and I'm sure it was discussed at many times with the school meetings that were held, because it was really a burden for them to pay that large of a sum for each child.
But after James Roundtree won his case to have the bridge rebuilt with metal, the community began to regain hope and confidence.
The school here was in 1865, and the only way that we could possibly get away from subscription school of paying $1 to $1.50 per child to go to school, we had to sign petitions, and that petition was sent by Mr. James Roundtree's son, Mr. William Roundtree, to the governor, and the governor took it to the Senate, and it was discussed at the Senate and ruled up on African Americans paying their taxes on the farmland should be able to send their children to school to get a free education. And that's when it was passed, somewhere in the 70s, I guess, 1872 or something like that.
Years that followed, both the school and the community thrived. By the early 20th century, Lyles Station had nearly 800 residents. However, in 1913, a devastating flood forced many settlers to leave. As the population declined, schools from the 3 smaller communities closed, leading to the creation of a new consolidated school. It opened in 1919 and became integrated in 1922. But by 1958, declining enrollment led to its closure. Over time, the school and much of the community's history began to fade into decay.
Would you have been one of the last generations to school here?
Probably so, yeah.
Until Stanley and other dedicated members stepped in to preserve it.
In 1997, there was a group of us of 19 that gathered down at the church to see if we could do something about the old school that set up here for 42 years with nothing being done to it, and put this in the process of making a museum out of it. So with that group of people that looked at the ideal of redoing this building, got together and worked about 4 to 5 years on grants and bylaws, and just a variety of what we have today was through a lot of hard work from a lot of individuals.
Since its opening, the museum has served as an important educational resource for many schools and remains a thriving hub, educating students and the community every day.
I think it's a wonderful time to make a difference. I guess would be the word I'd like to use, is to make a difference, to understand African Americans are true loving people just like everyone else, and dedicated to make tomorrow a better place. So I think that's very important for them to come to the museum to understand how the life of here 200 years and how we have put a lot of energy and labor in to make a difference in society.
From the wetlands they farmed to the schools they fought to fund, the story of Lyles Station is one of determination, unity, and belief in a better future. Built by families who refuse to be limited by the barriers placed before them, this community stands as a testament to the power of collective action and generational resilience. Today, Lyles Station is more than a place on a map. It's a living legacy through preservation, education, and remembrance. Its story continues to inspire new generations to understand the past, honor those who came before, and carry their perseverance forward.